You guys voted for this on a community post last month, so welcome to Vlogmas 2021 Day 1.
Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. So this video is going to be a little bit different. Throughout the week, I actually do a lot of baking that I don't film. Now that I don't upload every day like I used to, I have more time to do just leisurely baking. But I thought I would show you guys what I do bake on average in a week. So let's get into it.
So if you've been a viewer of my channel for a while, then you might remember the days where I used to upload daily. And last year when I did Vlogmas, it really wasn't that big of a deal, and it wasn't anything that special because I was already uploading daily and had done so for about a year and a half. This past September is when I stopped doing that, and so now we are back for a little bit of a special where I am going to try my very best to do the whole Vlogmas and upload every single day in December until Christmas. So when I had filmed this portion of the video, it was Sunday morning, and I woke up a little bit early because I wanted to make a batch of fresh cookies for my best friend Rachel. She just bought her own place, and so I'm going to surprise her with all of these cookies. So I always try to be as efficient as possible. In that first clip, I was browning the butter, letting it cool, and then I made that espresso shortbread dough. It was basically just a regular shortbread recipe, and then I added a couple teaspoons of espresso. As that shortbread is setting up in the fridge and I've had enough time to cool that brown butter, I'm getting started on the chocolate chip cookies. This is my favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe. I've done a video of it before on my channel. I love them because they have a really nice good hit of salt, and I made sure this time to add plenty of mini dark chocolate chips. So I have this acrylic container that I want to fill up completely with cookies. It looks really great when it's nice and full, so I know that I need to do at least 3 or 4 different varieties of cookies in order to fill it up. So this variety that I'm working on here is double chocolate chip, and I'm also going to add a little spin to it by adding in some mint melties, I think they're called, from Purdy's. If you're not Canadian, you might not know what Purdy's chocolate is. It's a really yummy chocolate store, so I'm definitely going to add in some of those special chocolates that I got. I have been watching a lot of Disney holiday videos that feature all of the different treats that they have at the parks, and I was really inspired by this one cookie that is just ginormous that they have, that they roll in chocolate chips and other types of chocolates. So I did the same with these chocolate cookies. Now, I always try to make sure that I order things, so I'm doing things as efficiently as possible. So I made sure that I did these ones last because they don't require any refrigeration, whereas the shortbread as well as those chocolate chip cookies do require some refrigeration. If you don't refrigerate beforehand, I find that the cookies end up really, really flat. They're still good and they're still chewy, but I prefer just a little bit of puff to them so I get a little bit more chew and it's not as crisp. Now, this is not my holiday treat box that I'm going to be putting together. However, I really think that any of these recipes would do really, really well in the holiday treat box. Who doesn't love these classic type of cookies that are just so chewy and delicious? I'm definitely a chewy cookie type of person. The only cookie that is not chewy in this selection are these espresso shortbreads. I just used a heart cookie cutter, rolled it out with a little bit of flour, cut them out, and then I placed those dots on with the fork. You'll notice that some of my cookies did not bake up perfectly. I find this happens if I use some things for my electric and some things for my gas, and plus it does matter how long you leave that dough sitting out and when you actually transfer it to the baking pans. So if you want consistency, make sure that you're always using the same baking pans, the same oven. Here is the box of cookies, and Rachel was gracious enough to allow me to have some as well. I believe that since she's one person, she took a lot of these and froze them and ate them later on.
And now I am off to deliver these cookies to my friend for her new place.
I always need a little bit of a baking break in between when I do big things like that, so I decided to wait one day, and then the next day after that, I am making some creme brulee. We had some friends that were going to be coming over, and one of her favorite desserts is creme brulee, so I decided to make an espresso creme brulee, which really worked out because I know that I need to make a pie later on using meringue. So this was perfect. I could use up my egg yolks and not let them go to waste. And if you guys want to see the recipe for this video, it was one of the very, very first videos that I ever did on my channel, so you can go ahead and check that out in the right-hand corner. Now, we tend to socialize for a pretty long time with this group of friends, so I decided that one dessert recipe just wasn't enough. So this is also a really, really easy dessert. I love doing easy desserts, especially when I have other things that I'm going to be cooking. So I made these red velvet cookies, and this was not my recipe. I believe I got it from Tasty, but I can't quite remember. It was really just adding eggs and oil to cake mix and then spooning it out and adding a generous portion of white chocolate chips. And I have to say, these actually tasted pretty good. You wouldn't even know that they were made from a mix. Going back to our creme brulee here, I always like to kind of put the sugar on there and then take the ramekin and move it around like this, and then I remove the excess. I either put it onto the other ramekins or I'll just place it back in depending on what I'm doing. And then after all of the sugar is evenly dispersed, fire it up. Now I should mention that these creme brulees were sitting in the fridge for approximately 4 hours. You always want to give your creme brulee enough time to set up. I will often make creme brulee for dinner parties because it's one of those things that you can make well in advance. And I will say the guests that haven't watched me do this thousands of times really get a kick out of watching me fire this up. So it definitely is something that is fancy, but super, super easy to do and not a lot of maintenance at all. Occasionally, sometimes I will also place these in the freezer instead of the fridge. Of course, you want to make sure that anytime you're placing them in the freezer or the fridge that they don't have the sugar topping on them or else it'll just go soft. And it kind of tastes like a creme brulee ice cream. It's very, very good. And moving along to the next day, I did not take a baking break. What I did here was I prepared some all butter pie dough. I love this one. It's from Sally's Baking Addiction. It's just so perfect. There's no reason for me to go and try and seek out another recipe because I get so many compliments on this pie dough. It's flaky and delicious. I was pretty tired from the day, so I didn't feel like continuing on with that. I just left it in the fridge overnight, and this is actually the next day when I'm rolling out the dough. So important, of course, you guys know that when you're working with pie and pastry and stuff like that, that you keep it really, really cold. So this actually made it a lot easier to work with because this had been in the fridge overnight, so you don't get that snap back from your dough. It allows everything to rest, and that way it's way, way easier to actually roll out. I also like to make sure to dock the dough at that point because I find when I don't do it at that point, then it makes it really, really difficult because it's so solid. So I ended up leaving that pie crust like that in the fridge for another day because I thought that I was supposed to be preparing that for my friend who had ordered a pie from me, but she actually needed to push back the date. So instead, I ended up making this lemon meringue pie, which is different than the flavor that was requested because my sister absolutely loves lemon meringue pie. And I needed her to babysit my kids, so this was going to be her little treat for agreeing to do so. So here we are, we blind bake the crust. It looks so, so yummy, so flaky and delicious. And then I'm putting in that lemon curd that I prepared, and it looks like a small amount of lemon curd, but this lemon curd is so, so tart. You really don't need too much. And then I'm putting this meringue on. I did create this meringue with the Italian meringue style, and then I'm taking this giant star tip and I'm creating little rosettes all over. I often like to do my meringues this way, but of course you could just pile it on top and it'll look just as delicious and just as yummy. And this is my favorite part. I really like to fire it up. When I did not have a torch before, I would often use, the broil option on the oven, and I never ever got it super even, and certain parts would scorch while other parts were not browned. So I absolutely love a torch, and I use it for so many other things as well. So there is the lemon meringue pie that I ended up giving to my sister, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. So fast forwarding to the next day, and I was a little bit sad because this pie crust didn't turn out as perfect, and this was the one for my friend's order. So it's all good. The reason that it didn't turn out as perfect was because this particular lump had a little bit less dough than the other one. So as I was trying to re-roll it out and make sure there weren't any gaps, of course it starts snapping back at you because the more it's been out and the more you play around with it, the more that happens. Luckily, she said that there was no difference in taste and buttery flakiness, so that is good. Now, I actually made this pie for Rachel last Vlogmas when I did this. It was my raspberry and strawberry meringue pie. I can't remember if I added strawberry last time, but I did end up adding strawberry and orange zest this time. And she mentioned that her stepdad absolutely loved the pie and ate it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So she knew she had to ask me to make him one for his birthday this year. So this is the exact same recipe that I used back then. Of course, whenever I do things like this, I generally stick to the same things. the same amount of sugar, the same amount of cornstarch, but I really love to switch up the different types of fruit and different add-ins. For example, this time I added in that orange zest. Now I placed that in the fridge while everything was baking in the oven, so it was ready and good to go. I used some meringue that I whipped up using the same Italian meringue method. You guys know I love that method. And then I'm just kind of covering everything up because I want to cover up that ugly crust. I knew it would not bake as well because I could feel it snapping back at me, so I knew there would be some shrinkage despite the fact that I did leave that in the fridge for an ample amount of time, but I knew that that would happen. So I'm trying a design here that really just covers everything up. And honestly, I know that Rachel's dad could probably care less about this, but I care. So I'm making sure to cover that all up, and I'm firing it up and adding some delicious fresh raspberries on the top as well. My children were quite dismayed when I told them that this pie was not for us and it was going to be leaving the house. It does look delicious, so I really don't blame them. So that is what I bake over the course of a week. And one thing that I didn't include in this was I also did that 2-tiered cake, that floral buttercream cake that I showed you guys. I decided to put that one in a different video because that is something that was specific for a video. And all of these baked goods and desserts are things that I just want to take on because I want to do them. And in the next coming weeks, I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a lot more baking, especially when I get ready for those Christmas treat boxes. Let's get into the subscriber submission of the day. I was tagged in some really, really cool photos from this bakery. There was tons of different things. It was really hard to just choose one thing. So definitely go and check them out on Instagram where you can see all of their amazing cakes that they make. And if you guys want to be the next subscriber submission of the video, and there's going to be lots because of Vlogmas, please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram where you can either tag me in a photo or send me a photo of your desserts. Any and all levels welcome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye.